name is Kirsty and welcome to Kirsty Knits and Sews. This is my little corner of the internet, which I like to think of more as a knit night, where I share the things that I've been working on, and I absolutely love to hear what you guys are working on and kind of keep track. Keep track sounds weird, but yeah, keep up with what you're doing as well. So please let me know what you're doing. I say knit night, I mean knit, crochet, sewing, craft in general. Even laundry is welcome here. So whatever you're working on right now, just pop a comment down below so I can, yeah, experience the two-way part of craft nights, knit nights. Yeah, welcome. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, good to see you again. Like I said, my name is Kirsty. I live in Rzeszów in Poland with my husband and 2 kids. It is so good to be here. More and more I've been reflecting on how much crafting is just so joyous, so lovely, and how it's been really, I don't even know what the word is, something that I look forward to every day. So yeah, I'm sure if you're here you have similar feelings about craft and knitting and whatever it is that you like to make. Making. Anyway, today we have a few things to talk about. I have some finishes. One of them you may already be able to see. If you've been here before, you'll recognize it. I have some finished things to show you. I have some current projects that I'm working on, which is knitting, crochet, and English paper piecing, which is a type of sewing, if you don't know that one. I will talk about some of the upcoming knits that I have planned, some life stuff, and also I'm going to share with you my stats for August, because August is finished and we're in September. Wowzers. September's my birthday month, so I like September a lot. Here in Poland, it is the beginning of fall, which is, I mean, I like all seasons. I can't really say I have a favourite. My least favourite season is probably summer, but I like fall, spring and winter equally, I think. But yeah, beginning of fall here in Poland, and in Australia, beginning of spring. So I'm used to my birthday being in spring, but spring and fall, weather can be quite similar. Can be. Anyway, so my birthday month, but let's talk about stats. So if you're new here, I have been keeping track of what I've been knitting this year. And every month I just give a quick update about what I've knit in the previous month. So I keep track in this book, the Bullet Journal for Knitters. It is designed, I cannot say her name, Haname Hansrud, maybe? Middle Streak on Instagram, which I will link below. Any projects I have, I will put in Ravelry. Any yarn related projects have a page in Ravelry, they will be linked below. And anything that I talk about, books, yarn dyers, shops, will be linked below. Anyway, so I've been keeping track in this book, and in August I finished 5 objects. I frogged 1 object. I finished the month with 8 projects that I was working on. This is yarn related. I used 842 grams and I gave away 100 grams, so 942 grams out of my stash, and I received 1,800 grams. So twice as much as I used or gave away, but that's all right. So there you go. Yeah, just have been doing this for fun. Last year I realized how much yarn I used in a year, and that if I didn't buy anything, I would use up my entire stash in 2 years. That hasn't happened, obviously. I'm still buying and still using, but just having that kind of awareness has been really helpful for me. All right, so let's talk about what I finished. The first one is behind me. Oh, before I do that, I will just mention this jumper that I'm wearing. It is knit in singles by Vera Yarns. She's an Irish knitter, Irish dyer. I'm sure she knits as well. So it's a singles of Vera held double with I believe it's the Drops mohair, kid silk mohair. And the pattern is by Renia of Comfort Zone Knits. Maggie is the name. So I'll link the project page for this below, which has all of that information on it. This was a test knit that I did and I love it. It is one of my most worn sweaters and I'm considering making another one when I can figure out what yarn I want to make it in. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful. It's just a lacework yoke. And the earrings that I'm wearing, these ones are handmade here in Poland. I bought them at a market in Krakow and I cannot remember who made them, but my mum bought some at the same place and so I've asked her to look at her stuff and see if she has a note about who made it, because they were absolutely amazing. They had this style but in a round one and I loved the style, the picture, but I didn't like the round. It just didn't suit me. And so she saw my hesitation and realized and said, look, I've got some drop ones, some oval ones in the kiln at the moment. I'm going home tonight, I can bring them tomorrow morning. And so 10 a.m. the next morning I rocked up and I bought these. So absolutely lovely, lovely woman. Okay, so now on to what I finished. It's done. I finished the Anthology III. It is not blocked. I just haven't been bothered yet. Basically, it's not blocked, but it is finished, completely bound off, and I have used it, I want to say every day since I finished it. I love it. I'm actually not going to pull it off because I don't think I can show you any better than that. If you want a close up, I did show it last week. But let me just scooch over. It is a round throw. It is very, very, very simple to knit. It is just a whole bunch of yarn overs and different things to make the pattern. The pattern is by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. Yeah, it was just a delight. Everything was very mindless until you get to the border, and the border has less mindlessness in it, but by the end of the border I wasn't really, like, you have to count in the border more, but I wasn't really phased by it by the end. The beginning was a little bit tedious, but it's only, I don't know, I'm like, it's only 1, 2, 3, 4 minis worth in the border plus the bind off, so 5 altogether in the border out of a 24 mini project, so 20%, it's not that bad. I had especially fun when I hit the border because Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady, who if you're not following, go follow, she was finishing it at the same time, and so we just had a bit of a encouragement at that point to actually finish the border. So that was really, really motivating at the point where I was like, oof, this could take a while. So yeah, really happy with that. The other thing I will mention, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it here. I only had 2 ends to weave in when I finished this. Where are the ends? Oh boy. No, it'll be on the back. I only had 2 ends to weave in when I finished this. And I am so, so, so grateful for the joint clasped weft join. Now a link, my husband's making faces at me. A link, sorry, he's gonna do it again. I'll link down below the tutorial for that because it's been amazing. Now I've tried this join multiple times for multiple projects and I have to say it does not work equally well for every single one. The clasp weft join, do I have yarn here that I can show you even? Let's use this. Basically you get a piece of yarn and you fold it in 2. And then you get another piece of yarn, this is the same piece, but pretend it's a different piece. And you put the end through it, and you fold that in 2. And so what you end up is this like wound around it, each other thing. And then you just hold the loose end and knit. And then when you start knitting the new colour, you just knit as well. So you end up with about 6 stitches, 3 for each colour that are knit double. And for most things, it doesn't make a difference. For this blanket, not a problem at all. And then it's counted as already woven in. So all I have to do once I block it is trim the ends. And I'm so, so, so grateful for that. When I'm changing for a toe on a sock, I don't like using this one because it adds a little bit of bulk, and because it's on the side where my toe meets the shoe, it gets a little bit, like it agitates my toe a little, so I don't like it then. But for blankets, I'm sold. I will do this all the time. For jumpers, I often do it. For shawls, all those things, it's great. The only other time I have found a potential problem with it was when I was doing brioche, and the color contrast was so stark that when I had 2 strands of the light color, it stood out quite a lot. But in that case, I'm not sure how I would sew it in so it didn't stand out, and so I'm kind of like, yeah. Anyway, clasped weft join, absolutely recommend it for scrappy projects. Yeah, so I haven't actually cut the ends because I'm going to wait until I block it before I cut them. But there is my Anthology Frame. And I did that on a 3.75 millimeter needle instead of a 4 millimeter that the pattern calls for. Just basically I had one free, all my 4 millimeters were full. And I don't mind having a bit of a tighter gauge on fingering weight. Like as in, I knew that that would be okay for me. However, it does mean it's a smaller quilt. Like you can see that smaller blanket. It's unblocked. It will grow when it's blocked, and it's still a good size for me to sit as a lap quilt over my legs. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just mentioning it is smaller than if you use the right gauge. And it meant that I was using less than 20 grams of my minis as well. All right, next project I have finished are my Good Mood socks. Now, this is very similar to my top color. These are by Krupka Knits. She's a Polish designer, and I did them as a test knit, but the pattern is well and truly out by now, so I will link it below. This is them. I do have both done, but the reason I've only got one on a blocker is it has writing on it. This one says Good Mood. And then I absolutely love Krupka Knits, Carolina. I love her color work designs. Like she does a lot of this kind of color work. I have another pair of her socks. I have a few pairs of her sock patterns. Mischief is not the one I'm thinking of. She has an all over sock pattern, which is free. I will link it below. I'm pretty sure it's free on Ravelry, which is this kind of style, but an all over sock. I have not done it yet. I am definitely wanting to do it because this is just stunning. And it is definitely charted. I don't think it's written instructions, but it is charted. So if you don't mind charts, check it out. Yeah, really, really simple socks to do. It's a heel flap and gusset. I did these 2.25 millimeter for the main and then 2.75 millimeter for the color work. In the pattern, I think she says go up to a 3. And again, I didn't have a 3 available, I don't think. But also, I was doing so many color work socks at the time that I figured I knew that my gauge would be better with the 2.75. And even then, I'm not sure I needed the 2.75 because I started knitting my socks inside out. When I'm doing color work, I knit them inside out. Look at the floats. Oh. Yeah, I've started knitting them inside out so that the floats go around the sock rather than inside, and it just stops it from tightening up. So this has plenty of room on the leg. I think if I did it again, I would probably stick with the 2.25 for the whole thing. Anyway, this is an extra large, so it is a large sock anyway. It does have quite a bit of room. Yeah, so they are my Good Mood socks. They're finished. I don't know if I mentioned this on the last one. Summer sock camp is over now. I had such a blast trying some new things. Colour work was the main new thing that I tried this year and I have loved it. But summer sock camp finished on the 31st of August. 4 days before something, I was like, I'm going to see how many socks I can finish before summer sock camp finishes. And I had 5 socks on the needles at the time and I got 2 finished, like 2 pairs finished. And within, I don't know, 40 rows of the final one finished. And I will show you that in a minute. It is finished now. I didn't finish it before the end, but it is finished now. And oh my goodness, oh, it was so much fun. All right, good mood socks. Love it. They are a gift for someone else. I will make sure that I pack them up. Next finish is just a pair of vanilla socks. These are yarn. These are Opal Gute Nacht. Let me find the colourway. Opal Gute Nacht number 9897, and the white contrast is Cool Wool Performance number 2. These ones are Lang Super Socks Island Socks, and the colourway is Madeira 0266. These ones my parents visited recently. We had such a blast with them visiting. I had surgery and they came right after the surgery, and we didn't expect me to be as out with surgery as I was. It was a bit more complicated than we expected, and they were here at just the right time. But right before they left, we were able to go into the city together, like into Krakow together in Poland, and go to a wool shop, an in-person wool shop, yarn shop, which I so rarely get to do these days. But while we were there, Mum picked some yarn for me to make her socks, because I've made Dad a few pairs and I've made Mum, okay, I have made her 2 pairs, but one of them shrunk in the wash and doesn't fit her anymore. And so she's really been wanting some more. So she bought me some yarn so I could make her more. So there you go. This is the yarn that she chose. It is, like I said, Lang Super Socks, colourway Madeira. Yeah, just really pretty, simple vanilla socks. This is Vanilla Socks on Magic Loop by the Crazy Sock Lady. These are size medium, 64 stitches. I do them on 2.5mm needles. And I do 2x2 rib for the cuff, 14 rows, and I do a 40 row leg. So yeah, very, very simple. Don't care that they don't match. I don't try and match things up, but I will say I've really liked this yarn because the heel flap and gusset, like, you can't really tell that there's a changing colour much, because the gradient is slow enough that you can do the heel flap and come in and you're still getting the tail end of whatever it is that you've been doing. Anyway, I really enjoyed that with these socks. So they're done. And they were my vanilla knitting for a while towards the end of summer sock camp. So I knew that I would get them done before the end. It was this next one that I wasn't, well, not those, that I wasn't 100% certain whether I would get done. And I did not get them done, but that's okay. And you will see why in a minute. It was a really fun test to see, not test, it was a really fun challenge, that's the word, to see how I would go getting things finished. And yeah, 2 out of 5 I was pretty happy with, but these ones, oh man. I think these socks are the socks that I'm most proud of ever making. You ready? I finished them. These are called Heartsplosion. The pattern is by, I'm going to forget, Alindria Knits. I'm going to forget her actual name, but Alindria Knits is the designer. Again, project page linked down below with all the information. Look at that. Oh, I love it. All right, so these are knit, I should say, these ones, DPNs, mindfulness DPNs. First time I've tried them out and I loved them. They're kind of a ChiaoGoo needle and sharpness, but in DPNs. These ones were knit on Magic Loop, ChiaoGoo for the 2.25mm, mindfulness for the 2.75mm. These ones were knit 9-inch circular, which is not my go-to, it's not my favourite, but I found for colour work, I found it really brilliant because it's continuous. And so I didn't have any gaps because I find tensioning at the end of Magic Loop more difficult for colour work, where 9-inch circular, you just knit around. And I'm now very comfortable doing 9-inch circular because I've done it for 2 entire socks colour work. My colour work, I hold both yarns in my right hand and I just drop one and pick up the other and do it, drop it, pick up the other and do it. And I just found that very simple, very close to my normal style. I didn't find it overly cumbersome dropping and picking up because I do that all the time in knitting anyway. Yeah, but they're done. I did start, I don't know if you can see here, there's some tensioning issues. I did start this on Magic Loop and over here, and it just wasn't, it had tensioning issues. And so when I switched to 9-inch circular, they went away and it was brilliant. What on earth is going on there? I don't know. Something feels like it's pulling. Anyway, the yarn. The yarn also made this a delight to knit. So the pink is Firefly by Fibre Lily. It is one of the softest, squishiest sock yarns I've ever used. This one by Fibre Lily and 3 Trees Fibercraft have a really nice sock yarn. I think it's Fledgling by 3 Trees Fibercraft. They are my 2 favourite for softness and squishiness, and I just want to snuggle up. It's just beautiful. And then the white one, which has a very similar feel actually. Not quite as obvious, but then like still quite nice, is Sally Ridgway, who is another Australian designer. So they're both Australian designers. I think I mentioned last week, this white one is, I think, the first indie dyed yarn that I bought. And I remember buying it and I saw it and I didn't buy it straight away. And then I just had this, if it sells out, I'm going to be so sad. So I bought it and I tried pairing it with so many different things like pale pinks. I tried pairing it with this pink actually. And it just fell flat. I wasn't liking it. I frogged it a couple of times with different things. And I put it with this deep pink, bright pink, and I love it. So you can see this sock, the hearts stand out a little bit better than this one because by the time I got to the middle of the skein, the speckling was getting a bit darker. And so some of the bits were just like stripes between the hearts where the first half was much more speckly. But I did not mind it. I still love it. I can still see that they're hearts on this one. Yeah. And like I mentioned before, I did it knitting it inside out. So rather than knitting on the outside like you would normally do, if I can get this off again, I just had it inside out and was knitting. So I was still looking, how do I put this? I was still looking at the outside and knitting into what is the front or the outside. But because it was inside out, I was basically holding the needles backwards. I'm gonna confuse this so much more. Go look at my previous episode if you're confused about this, because I had it on the needles and could show you what it looks like to knit it inside out. Yeah, anyway, so much fun. So I finished them, woohoo, And that is everything that I finished between the last time I saw you and today. Alright, I have been working on quite a few things. I was thinking I haven't been working on much, but I have been dabbling. So let's go through what I've been working on. This one, most of my bags I've made myself. If you're interested in trying, I have a tutorial on here that is linked below about how to make project bags. I don't have the size with me that is, like the one I show in the tutorial is about this big. Like it's a 1 skein sock bag. But I do talk about how to adjust it for different sizes. Alright, so this one is the one that I have been working on every morning. And this has kind of become my vanilla knitting, if it's a vanilla knitting that I can still, maybe a home vanilla knitting. This is the Trigradient Shawl by Stephen West of West Knits. So it is a brioche and garter shawl. It's getting big. I think since I showed you last time, I think that's what this one here was for. So I've done that much since I showed you last time. And when I finished, so the 1st of September, I put in a marker. And so I've done that much since the 1st of September. So you can see, like, yeah, I've done a fair bit in the past week. This is a shawl for my husband. It is 2-sided. It's brioche, so that's the darker side and that's the lighter side. I made one of these, same yarn, same everything, for my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, and my husband loved it so much that he asked me to make him one. So that's what I'm doing. I started this is my oldest yarny whip at the moment. I started it November last year. I was thinking I would get it done quickly for winter. It did not happen. And so now I'll talk about it a bit more later, but I'm kind of hoping that I can get it done in the next 2 weeks. It's not urgent that I do. It would just be nice if I did. And I'm trying to, at the moment, balance what that looks like. Because I still have a decent amount to knit. It's 2-color. So this is a new ball that I just started yesterday or today. But I won't finish this ball. I will stop when these two are finished. And these are only, I think it was 160 meters, 165 meters each. So I've almost finished this one. When this is finished, it's over. So yeah, still quite a bit of knitting to go, but yeah, I'll see. It is something that I'm enjoying, knitting, but also I'm kind of in that I just want it to be done phase. And so I'm like, do I put it away and come back to it when we're getting close to winter again, or do I just try and push through and get it done? And I'm using it as my 30 minutes of knitting. So in the morning, when I'm just kind of waking up, I pull this out and work on it. But I'm feeling pressure to work on it other times of the day because I just want to get it done. I want another finish. I want it to be finished. So we'll see. I don't like knitting with pressure, but it's also just an enjoyable one to knit, and I like seeing it finish. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with this one. And because I'm kind of, I'm like, maybe I should just put it away for a while. But that's difficult, and I'll get into that later. So that's the first one. The next one has been put away for a while, and I pulled it out again recently. So because I finished the green socks, I don't have any vanilla socks on the needles, and vanilla socks are usually my travel project. And so I pulled this one out again. This is the Veronica Sock by Rainier of Comfort Zone Knit, so the same person who designed this. And again, very similar colour. You can see I like this colour. But this is the pattern. It is beautiful. I love it. I also test knit this one for her, and this is my second pair. So my first pair was like fall colours and I did it last fall. This is just because I wanted to make it again. I really like it. It's a toe-up sock with a fleagle heel, I believe. Fleagle heel and heel flap maybe? I'm not sure. Heel flap and gusset, but toe-up, whatever it is. But I want it to be knee-high socks because I have some boots and I was just like, these would make really nice knee-high socks. This is, I can't tell you anything about the yarn except that it has some cashmere in it and I bought it from the mulberry tree in Milton. I've lost the tag long ago, and I bought it when I was pregnant with my second child, so 2.5 years ago, maybe, I bought this. Anyway, but because I want it knee high, I've just been adding increases on the back. So every time there's a cable on the front, I do 4 increases on the back. And that seems to be working pretty well to get it over my calf. And then at the top, I may do some decreases back down, or I may just leave it and do ribbing at the top. But that's what I'm doing with these. And they've been away because I kind of had to decide how tall I wanted the sock. And I didn't touch it for a while. And I was like, you know what? I do want knee highs. And so I've pulled it back out. It's actually a very simple, memorizable pattern. So this has become kind of my vanilla knitting because it's vanilla on the back, a little bit patterned on the front, but not difficult. Yeah, my Veronica Socks. So I'm excited to do these. This is one of the 2 pairs of socks I still have on my needles after summer sock camp. And the other one I didn't bring up to show you because I haven't touched it since I showed you last. But it is a colourwork one, and now that I finished the Heart Explosion socks, I will probably get them out and work on them as well. What else? All right. There's one that I didn't bring to show you because I forgot. So I won't go grab that now, but I will show you this one instead. If I can pull it out. This is my Cozy Memories blanket. Now this one is, this bag is just stuffed full of skeins because I'm only using yarn in this blanket that I have used in other projects. But to make this project, I didn't have enough minis to do it. And so I pulled out full skeins or, partial skeins, like full skeins or almost full skeins. And I put these in here. So like this one is this one here. Just so that I had enough to finish this. I love minis, but I don't tend to buy them. And so I'm just like, hey, let's use full skeins to make minis. But it means that now I can put them all into this blanket because I say this blanket, I can hold it in one hand. Clearly, it's not much of a blanket yet, but it will be. So this is where I'm up to with this. Very, very early days. It is Cosiest Memory by Kemperay, and I have done some modifications. I think in the original pattern, all of the diagonals go in the same way, same direction. If you want to see this one finished, like an in-person finish, Lisa of 72 Stitches, she has Knit All the Yarn podcast on YouTube. She's just finished an entire blanket of this. So if you want to go see an in-person one, as in not a photo, a video of one, finished, as the pattern says, go look at hers. Mine is obviously not finished and not as the pattern says. So what I did was I made a square in the center and then I did another row of a square around that. And in some ways I would have loved to keep going with that, but I just didn't find a good way to join it in, because rather than picking up the stitches and then knitting in one direction, you had to like knit to the end, pick up a stitch, knit back, knit, pick up a stitch, knit back. And I just never found one that was simple enough to be enjoyable long term, or that gave me the look that I wanted at the end. Like they're all a little bit bumpy or strange. Maybe you can't see it as well online, but in person I can see it. And so then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do the rest going out from that square. And so you can see up here, like the square goes to here, and then they're all just going out diagonally from that point. Yeah, so that will be the center of my quilt, my blanket, and that's what I've got done. And yeah, basically I finish a project, I put it in here. I'm not going to go through and say what everything is, but there you go. I think last time I showed you it was just the square. So now I've done, yeah, all of these ones on the outside will be new. Yeah. So really enjoying that. I have a bag full of things to add into it, and I will do some of that. I actually like to do it on a Sunday. Scrappy Sunday. It just kind of has worked out that when I pull out knitting on a Sunday, I will often do this and just add in whatever I finished from the week into here. I'm also doing 2.5 millimeter needles, and I'm using Knit Pro Zings for that. And I'm doing 20 by 20. So 20 across, 20 up. So you pick up 40 to start with and knit down, which is slightly less than the pattern says. All right. The next one. This one has been really fun. This one, you know, when you have a day where you're like, I really want to make all these things. I really want to cast on all these new things. But I really shouldn't because I have all these other things and I'm trying to finish things. And then, like, I had a day like that, and I kid you not, I just kind of zoned out for 2 hours and then was like, oh, I cast on 2 new things. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like, it just kind of, I obviously was consciously doing it, but I'd just been thinking about it long enough that I had a minute and I was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this. And then I kind of had this moment of, I just started 2 new things. I wasn't planning to. Okay, cool. So this is one of them. And this is the other one that's kind of replaced my vanilla sock knitting. It is vanilla crochet knitting. So this is the Granny Wrap by Annaboo's House, I believe. And this is all I've got so far. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to just join it in the back and make it a cow, because that would be really cute. Really tempted. But no, I do want it as a wrap. Yeah, so new cast on. This yarn is one that I dyed myself with my friend Rosie. Hi Rosie, if you're watching this. She came to visit me here in Poland, and we went to the Rynek, the town centre, and all of the buildings are just very pale. They're not all the same colour, but they're all very similar colours. And so we came home and did a yarn that kind of was our inspiration, the town centre. And I have to say, in a ball, like in a skein, it was pretty inspirational. In a ball, I just didn't really like it. Crocheted up, I love it. And I love that in crochet you get these clumps. Like, rather than the lines of knitting, you get these clumps, which means that kind of you can even imagine it's just buildings in a centre. It's so much fun. I'm doing this with a 3.5 millimeter clover hook, and I am really enjoying it. It's very, like, the hook is nice, the project is easy. I am going to pull from the center of this and add a square into my Cozy Memories blanket before I finish it, because I really want this in my Coziest Memories blanket, but I'm also gonna just use up all of it here. And I didn't bring the other yarns for it, but I have 3 skeins pulled at the moment, and I'm probably going to need to pick another 1 or 2 to finish it, because 3 skeins is 300 grams, and Cave the Crazy Sock Lady and Lisa of 72 Stitches have both done this already, and in fingering weight, not in, I think it's written for Aran weight, so we've all just downsized the crochet hook. And they both used Advents, and Lisa used Advent and then added the 50 gram full skein that came with the Advent. So she ended up with like almost 500 grams. Kay, I don't know how much she ended up with, but she did the full advent, which is 480. So Lisa would have had 530. Anyway, Kay used the whole advent and then just added her scraps to finish. This one won't be scrappy, so I can't just add scraps at the end, but I don't think my 300 grams will be enough. So anyway, I'm gonna start here. I'm going to keep going and see how far I get. But the next colour is still this kind of beigey base, but with a bit more red and a bit more, not quite copper, golden kind of colours. And then the third one is green with some reds in it. So I will show you them at a later time. But this is, yeah, my vanilla project. So this is the one that I took to church last week. I crochet in church, or I knit in church. I always pick a very basic thing that I do not need to think about. But we go to church in Polish. And my Polish is not that great that I understand everything in Polish. And if I'm tired, well, we have kids. So sometimes I sit in church and I knit or crochet, and it helps me stay awake to listen to the sermon in a language that I do not fully understand. And sometimes I take the kids out the back and I sit with them out the back and I crochet or knit while looking after them. So yeah, this has been my church one for the moment as well. All right, this next one. So this next one is the other one that was just kind of my, oh, I've started a new project. This is one, I'm pretty sure I spoke about it recently here. I've wanted to do this for a while. So if you've been here a while, you'll remember my Dueto cardigan, which was my orange cardigan that ended up way oversized. Now, I ended up gifting that to my mother. When she was visiting, I was like, you know what? I've done this before. I've knit one for me. It's come out too big and I've gifted it to her. And so I was like, I'm going to gift you this one too. I'm just, ooh. A thought. Anyway, I was like, I'm just going to gift you this one. She tried it on, it fit her, it looked pretty good on her. And so I was like, take it away. So that's now in Australia with her. But I really, really liked the fabric from that one. So this was using Hobby Winter Glow yarn, which is kind of a variegated singles. It's like a hand spun vibe, but it's 51% wool, 49% acrylic. And what I did for the Dueto cardigan was I held that double with a lace weight yarn. And so this one, which kind of has a bit of variegation, and this one's, again, a similar colour. I love this colour. A bit of variegation. By putting this in, it kind of gives it an overall more tealy look, which I really, really, man, I really like this colour. It's not showing up brilliantly there, but yeah, I just love it with that little extra bit of greeny teal colour in it. So I was thinking that I would make the Dueto cardigan is a pattern that also has a Dueto sweater. So you can do it as a sweater or a cardigan. And I was like, I'll make the Dueto sweater out of this. But then I thought about it and I thought about it a bit more, and I realized that the Dueto cardigan and sweater set, they're meant to be oversized. And what I was picturing with this yarn was a fitted cropped jumper to wear over dresses. Because I have a lot of dresses. I wear dresses most of the time these days. And I just don't have really anything that I can wear over it. I'm wearing a dress now, and this jumper I'm wearing, but it still goes down to my hips or past my hips. And I really want a cropped cardigan or a cropped jumper to wear with my dresses. Yeah, just a nice pullover for my dresses. So instead of doing the Dueto sweater and trying to make it fitted, I just thought I would make my own thing. And so I'm just making this up as I go. I'm not sure it's going to work. If it doesn't, it's going to be a real hassle to undo because of the yarn. It sticks to itself a bit. But I've just cast on, I'm doing a V-neck sweater. And so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But that's the beginning of it. And this is the one that I was like, oh, I'm just going to give it a go and see how it goes. And oh, I've just started 2 projects. Yeah, so we'll see how much I get done on this. I'm not worried about not finishing this soon. This is one that I will take around with me and work on, and if I can get it done, I mean, once I get through the yoke, it'll be incredibly simple. Once I even join it for the neck, it'll be pretty simple. But yeah, because I'm not following a pattern, it is a little bit more thinking, and that's where I'm up to with that one. All right, the last thing I have to share with you that is a current project is not knitting or crocheting. It's not yarn related. It is sewing. And to share this with you, I am pretty excited. So for those of you who don't know, I learnt to knit when I was a kid. Like the time I learnt to knit that I didn't forget again, I was 13. But I learnt to knit many, many times before I was 13. That was just the time that people stopped having to reteach me when I tried again. Crochet, I don't remember exactly, but it would have been similar. I remember just making up baby blanket patterns and things. I remember teaching people to crochet when I was 20, but I don't remember when I started. Sewing, I also learnt to sew when I was a kid, and I made my first quilt when I was, I want to say 15. I went to visit my grandma and she taught me to quilt. She taught me to sew on a machine and how to quilt. And yeah, so I've been doing this stuff a lot of my life. But when I was 21, I moved from Sydney to Melbourne for Bible college, and while I was at Bible college, I had a part-time job at a quilt shop. And while I was there, I saw people doing English paper piecing. And I just thought, it's too hard, it's too much. I didn't have a sewing machine at the time, and I decided that I would give it a go one day. And so I started English paper piecing. And it was slow, and it wasn't something that I spent a lot of time on. Like the quilt that I started then, I finished 10 years later. So it was very, very slow progress. And then I found Jody of Tales of Cloth. Now she has a business where she sells paper pieces for quilts. But go follow her on Instagram if you are interested in this at all. She makes beautiful quilts. Beautiful, beautiful quilts, and just all of her reels are so beautiful and fun, and color choices and fabric, and anyway, so the same reason I love knitting, which is it's relaxing, it's meditative, it has color and plays with color, is why I like sewing. I've realized a lot of my joy for these things is because of the color. So, which is probably why I'm also struggling with that black and grey shawl. It's because I love my husband, not because I love the colours. All right, I have a few things to show you here, but it shouldn't take too long. Actually, let's start with the quilt. Let's start with where I'm up to. So this, when I decided recently to go back into this, because I'm preparing for a trip and I wanted to have different types of crafts for my trip, and I got an email from Jody of Tales of Cloth. She has a newsletter sign up, again, I recommend, and it was just talking about flow and the way that we enjoy craft and the way that we get into it, and I was like, yeah, I really like doing English paper piecing. I should get into that again. And I thought, there are lots of patterns that use lots of different shapes, and I don't have the brain space at the moment to get into that and to try and plan, you know, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. But I love colour. I love playing with colour. I like basically painting with colour in quilts and knitting. And so I thought 1-inch hexies is the best way to do that. And I have a quilt that I started, again, before my daughter was born, that does just that. It's 1-inch hexies. It's so simple. And this is what I've done so far. So this is a mystery quilt by Jemima's Creative Quilting. This was the 2021 one. She's also done a 2022, and the 2023 I think is in process right now. If you're interested in the old ones, she has patterns on her website, Jemima's Creative Quilting. I'll link her below. But this one, yeah, I did it I started it when it was a free mystery quilt along. I love it. And this was just, I had a whole bunch of hexies that I had basted, and so by the time I got to this, I was just laying them out and sewing them together. I didn't have to go back and baste anything for that part. I then, the next section uses these little ones and these hexie flowers. And so these will be joined on around the edge of that. Oh, that one's not finished being sewn. Whoops. I'll put that aside so I can finish it. Yeah, so these are some hexie flowers that I will be adding on to the edge of this. And when I did it, I was totally feeling the pinks and blues. When I started going into the oranges and yellows, into the warm colours, I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that. But because I was using what I'd basted already, that was the colours I had. Now I look at that and I'm like, oh, look at all those pretty colours. Totally feeling it now. So yeah, really happy to get back into this. Now, if you are at all into crafts, storage and how you store things is always really important. Oh, I will also say these all have papers in them still. These are the Tales of Cloth papers. Once a hexie is completely sewn around on every side, you can take the papers out. So most of these don't have papers, it's just that outer edge that still has the papers in. The rest of them are all, oh, I missed one. The rest of them should be all out. I'll just show you this here now. So I thread based 1-inch hexies. I glue based everything else. But for thread basting, like there's a paper in here, I don't sew through the paper, so I can just pop that out. And that's what it looks like. Just a little 1-inch. It's like a thick paper or a light cardboard, this one, and it's recycled. Cut on a laser cutter in Australia. So yeah, absolutely love it. Really excited to be back to it, but it means that it's, yeah, easy to fold up because there's not a huge amount of paper in there. So this is what I pulled out again, and I was planning to put it aside for my travel, but I've started sewing again, and I just am leaving, oh, I'm dropping things now. I'm just leaving these 3 tins down where my making corner is downstairs, so I have it for like with my knitting so that I can pick it up when I'm ready. And I'm just going to show you what I've got here. It's a box that I bought that had fudge in it when I bought it, and it's just a really good size for this. So this is what I have my current one in. So this is the flower that I'm working on at the moment, and what I do is it's still got all the papers in at this point. I do the center one, I sew the 5 around, and then I join up the little ends. Once they're all joined, I sew the next lot around, and then I'll come back and sew up the sides. I used to try to do it the most economical way in terms of everything, and try and, you know, if I sew this one on, then I can sew the next one like this, and then up this side, and the next one like this. And honestly, the thinking that I put into it was exhausting. And finally I was like, you know what? I can just sew around and go back and do those little things, and that's okay. It's like I wanted the least amount of joins as possible, or like new thread starts. Which, if you do this and you're interested, the way that I start is I just do, like, I sew through, I don't put a knot on, I just sew through, and then I sew back through the same spot, and I just loop my thread, my needle through that hole twice and pull tight. And usually it's not a problem. Occasionally it'll pull out and I'll just do the same thing again and it will hold tight. And then I sew down, and then at the end, even if I'm not cutting the thread, I will do the same thing. And I'll just loop it through twice and pull tight. I'll start the next one and I'll loop it through twice and pull tight, and then I'll do the whole thing. And that just means that if for some reason I need to go back and cut something, which I did the other day because I made a mistake, I'm not having it unravel massively long. I can unravel one side at a time. So even though here it's the same thread the whole way around here, if I need to just unravel this one, take this one off, I can. And I've seen this happen before, like the other day I sewed something wrong and I needed to undo something, and I could. I've seen it where someone's finished a quilt and then realize that there's still a piece of paper in one of the things, and you can then like cut in, like undo one thing, take out the paper and put it back in. Anyway, it's just a little security thing that I do. And then here is like the rest of my things that I need for this round. So they're all lined up, ready to go. And this little tin, I love tins. I love storage. This is a little tin that I'm pretty sure I bought from a $2 shop in Australia, but I've put things in here. So I've got my little snips. I have my Invisifil. Yep, Invisifil, which is from Wonderfil. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see that. It's Wonderfil Soft Poly Invisifil. This is color 2156. It's weight 100, oh no, sorry, color 112. 400 meters. I think it's like 6 or 12 Australian dollars for this, but it is my favorite for joining hexes. It is just so lovely. You can barely see the joins, like even here, which is on a dark red, you can barely see, like if I pull it apart, you can still barely see the joins. It's just such a light, simple thing. I have a little pin cushion that I made, so tiny, and then I have just some Wonder clips, and I've filled up some bobbins with thread, which I don't use for this, but I have them in here so that if I'm doing other sewing, like any other hand sewing, I have a different kind of thread for that. So that's my little sewing kit that goes around with this project at the moment. So that is all in this little Smoochie's Handmade fudge box. Smoochie's fudge is really good. If you're in Australia, get on it. I hope they're still around. I'm hoping that I can buy some when I go back. So the other thing that I do with my English paper piecing is I have this little box, this little tin. This tin is from Aldi Australia. It had Danish cookies in it and it was really yummy. And I've just repurposed it. So again, I have another little pin cushion that I've made. This pattern is by Crazy Mum Quilts from her book. Actually, maybe not a book. Maybe it's from her blog. Anyway, I have a whole bunch of 2.5 inch squares, which are scraps from quilts that I've made. Occasionally, I buy a, do I have one in here? Yes. Occasionally, I buy a little mini 2.5 inch stack, but generally they're scraps from quilts I make. I have all of my little paper pieces in here, and then I have my glue in case I decide to glue. I have some little snips. I have some cotton thread that is not very special to me, as in like it's not my favorite to use, it's just one that I'm happy to get rid of. I have some more Invisifil in a different color because that's what I had. and I have a glue stick. So line glue stick for if I decide I want to do some glue basting. But this is basically everything I need to baste hexes. I can choose between thread basting or glue basting. And so if I just want something easy to do, sometimes this is what I reach for, because I can just sit there and baste hexes. Once they're basted, there's room in there to put some, but once they're basted, I move them to here. This is a box that I made myself. It is just cardboard covered in fabric. I made it during lockdown, and I am pretty sure there was someone who had like a kit that you could buy to make boxes, and I thought, I don't need to buy a kit, I can just make one. And so I just did a whole lot of maths and figured it out how I wanted it, and most of the fabric is Anna Maria Horner fabric. This one is not. I can't remember who that is. And then, love it. This is where I put my basted hexes, and I just sort them by cool colours, greys, warm colours. Low volume is what I call this. It's just anything that basically reads light or white. And in here I have some Jen Kingwell Milliners size 11. These are some of the needles that I like doing English paper piecing with. I'm not super fussy with what needles I use. I have some more snips, but I seem to have lost the end that covers them. And so when I was making the quilt, this is where I came to, and I just picked up these things that were already basted, laid them out until I found a design I liked, started sewing them together. But I literally had this many warm colours after I did this round of quilts, of hexes. And so I started basting some more. Yeah. So this is just the way I thought it would be interesting if you're interested in this kind of thing. This is the way that I store them. And it kind of fills those different needs from I want to sew without thinking. I pick up this one. I want to play with hexes or just like see random different colours. I can pick up this one, or I can pick up this one, and this one I can actually just do designing. I can pull them out and make the hexie flower in any colours because they're all there. So yeah, that's my English paper piecing at the moment. It's really enjoyable to be able to get back to it. And yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to say about that. If you have any questions about anything, absolutely just message below and I'll answer it if I can, or I'll talk about it on the next chat as well. Yeah, so let's talk about upcoming knitting plans. I am doing the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. It is Gradient this year. I have done it every year for the past 2 years. That one needs to go there. And I really enjoyed it. Sorry. Both from a learning new skills and a community aspect. Like I said before, this is kind of my knit night chat. Everyone can get together and talk about what they're doing at your own time and in your own place. But I don't have a local knit night. I don't have a local craft club. And so Stephen West Mystery Knit Along is when I have an active chat going with my sister and my mum and another couple of friends who did it last year, and we can all just kind of get together and chat about what we're doing and have show and tell and all those things. So I really enjoyed it. The first one I had just moved to Poland, and so I didn't really have anything at all, and that was kind of my thing. Last year, I'd been here a year, it was lovely, but it was just really fun to then like bring some other friends along with that. And then this year, I'll be in Australia during the Mystery Knit Along, and so it'll be really nice because I'll have just arrived in Australia. I'm not moving back to Australia. I will talk about it a bit more in life stuff, but I will be in Australia in October, and so that'll be fun. But for the colours, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to buy or dye or use stash. And I realised that I had pretty much the perfect thing in my stash already. And that is these. So it's a 4-colour fingering weight gradient. And so I think I'm going to do this. I could do it that way. I think I'm going to do it this way. So yeah, 4-colour gradient is what it's called for. I had these in my stash and you may recognize them. Excuse me. This is Lang Super Socks 4-ply natural, which I bought to make socks. I bought all of these to use as colourwork socks or contrast colour for socks. And then I went to use this one and realised it's 100% wool. There's no nylon. It's not BFL that I'm aware of. It just says 100% wool. And I'm not making socks with 100% wool because then I get holes in them, as I have demonstrated multiple times this year. So I had these 4, and then the gradient was announced, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do that because it's nice enough. I'll use it, like I'll wear it as a shawl. I was definitely thinking something with this green in it anyway, because how fun is that? So I'm going to use these colours and then, yeah, have fun. Yeah, so that is my excitement for them. I think technically some of these are new acquisitions since I've shown you last anyway. So there you go. I'm not going to show them again. But yeah, love it. Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. The other thing that I am going to do, I'm really excited about, I didn't bring the yarn here, which is silly of me, but the Birch Sweater by Andrew Murray has been on my I want to knit list for a long time. And I had yarn that I really wanted to make it out of. It's a deep green. And I then realised that I didn't have enough. And I was super disappointed and I wasn't sure what to do. And then I dyed some more yarn so I'd have enough. So I had 4 skeins. I didn't know what I was going to do when I dyed it, but I knew I wanted to jump her out of it. And I thought, I usually use 3 for fingering weight, so I'll dye 4 just to be safe. And then this one needs more because it's a fisherman's rib sweater. And I was so disappointed. But then I was like, that's all right. I'll repurpose that to a different sweater and I will dye more yarn for the birch. Which I did. So now I have 5 of a different type, 5 skeins of fingering weight yarn in a different green for the birch. And I did a swatch for the other one with the dark green yarn that then needed a mohair to go with it. So I bought a mohair to go with it. And I didn't love the swatch. I loved the pattern, but I didn't love the fibre that I was getting. And it was a merino mohair, not a silk mohair, and so I wonder if that's part of it as well. Like it was just a bit of a heavier mohair and the gauge was a bit off and it wasn't as flowy as I wanted. It was just a whole lot of stuff. I wasn't loving it. And so that sat there and I haven't cast on, I hadn't done anything with it. It just sat there as a swatch. And then I was like, maybe I could do the birch and maybe I would have enough to make it work. And I went and had a look at the pattern again because since my surgery, I've lost a little bit of weight. My size doesn't fluctuate as much as it did before, and so I was like, maybe I would have enough, like I could knit a size down and I would have enough, maybe. And so I went back and I looked at the schematic for size recommended, and I was like, I could knit a size down, and then I would still, like I would almost have enough with Andrew Murray's 10% extra that she generally allows. I should have enough. But then I realised that again, I was picturing this as a cropped sweater to go over dresses. And if it's a cropped sweater, then I'm taking 4, 5, 6 inches off what she's done, and that saves heaps of yarn. And so I should absolutely have enough, even having done a swatch for something else. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repurpose that yarn back into what I originally wanted to use it for, and I'm so excited, and I'm going to cake that all up and take that on my trip with me. And I don't know when I'll get it done, because there's other things that I'm doing as well, but I'm so excited to do that now. And I think I will still make another birch with the other, but I'll do a full length one and have a bit of a like snuggly cozy wear with jeans one versus a snuggly cozy wear over a dress one. So that is my plan for them. And there's been a few things that I've kind of been, projects that have stalled that I've been trying to figure out why they've stalled or why I haven't gone back into it. And some of it's just a season thing, but some of them I'm like, no, I'm just not loving it, or I'm not set on it having done the swatch or something. So that's the one that I frogged as well. It was the Braidley Cobb Stitch sweater, which I still love the pattern and I still want to make the pattern. I just wasn't loving it in the blue. So I don't know whether I'm going to go back to the brown, which was my original for that or not. We'll see. All right, so I do have some new things to show you. I have 3 more Jowl, however you want to call it. These are my happy makers when I'm having a bad day, or my motivation for something. So like one of these I got for exercising. When I was like, I really don't want to exercise today, but I know I'll feel better if I do it, but I just really don't want to, and it was motivation. Some of them was just us having a bad day and my husband's like, you need something to cheer you up. So I've got 3 more of these, and they, I use them for heels, toes and cuffs or colourwork socks. So I'm getting a good collection of plains for colourwork socks because I'm hooked. This one, this is a new gauge square. Kukonki is a Polish yarn shop, and my last gauge square my dog jumped on and broke, and so I'm excited to have a new one finally. And then I ordered some yarn from Kukonki as well. So this is a 50/50 acrylic cotton, which I bought to make something for my mum. So this is the project, I think I mentioned last episode that I was going to do a special project for my mum in November. And so this is my, what I've ordered for that. And oh man, guys, check that out. So Kukonki Motki Ombre. Sorry, it's not cotton, it's a merino acrylic 50/50. Because I'm making for her in summer, not in winter. Sorry, for winter, not for summer. But check that out. I'm so excited to start this. I'm going to do the, I'm not going to know the name now. Oh man, is it here from last week? Midnight Star Mandala by Lavender Chair. There we go. Got it. Midnight Star Mandala by Lavender Chair. It is a crochet cardigan. It's a sleeveless cardigan. The pattern only goes up to an extra large. It is free on her blog. But someone else has done it to modify it for up to a 3XL, I think. And so all of her notes are on Ravelry, so I'll be using that to modify this so that it will fit my mum. But I picked the colours. Mum traditionally has been a very pinky purple person, and she's moving into the greens. And so I thought this would be really fun to do kind of a pinky purple, which will be in the centre of her back. And then by the time you get up to what's around her body and face, shoulders and face, you'll be up to the greens. So I thought that would be a really fun way to give her a bit of colour and brightness, but finish with what she is leaning towards now. And I got 2 of them because they're 4 strands, and the gradient is done by changing the colours of the strands one at a time. But it's kind of a, I don't know, sport weight kind of level, and I think the pattern is designed for an Aran weight. So I just went, we'll just get 2 and I will hold them double. So it will be very, very, very big. Very thick. But then I got these little ones which match perfectly the colour on the outside, and that means, because I wasn't sure how much I actually needed, and I obviously didn't want to stop before the final gradient because that would be sad, but I didn't know how much because the pattern isn't written for the size that I'm doing. And so I got a bigger ball, like a fairly bigger ball than what the thing said. But then I got 2 of these so that if I need to add extra on the end, I can. If I don't, I'll figure out something to do with them. But I just figured that was a better way to do it, to try and actually make it through the gradient the full way and still have flexibility with colour and amount. So yeah, this one, I'm really, really excited to start this one. I expect that I'll start this one in November because October will basically be mystery knit along. At least based on last year and the year before. It may not take up as much time this year. It's only 4 skeins, not 5. Who knows? So yeah, they are my new pretties for this episode. And now we're not finished talking about crafting things, but I'm going to go into life stuff a bit more. So if you don't want to hear about life stuff, that's fine. Thanks for joining us. But otherwise, I'm just going to talk a bit about life stuff and how that intersects with craft as well. So I mentioned before that we are going to be visiting Australia. We're going to go for a few months, and we've just had a lot of planning and stuff going on with that. We have some friends who'll be staying here and looking after our house and our dog, so that is brilliant. And so I've been trying to sort out what crafting looks like when you go away for a few months and how to do that. And so last week I spoke a little bit about a breakdown of month by month and what that looks like. But also, yeah, I keep going back and forward on it because crafting is such a big part of my life, my relaxation. I just love it. And I'm going to want to do craft while I'm away. So I've been going back and forward between, I can just buy things in Australia. I don't need to take things with me. And there are things that I genuinely just want to work on, like that birch sweater, that I want to be able to take and work on. And why would I not work on what I want to work on simply because I'm in another country? Why would I not work on what I have and force myself to buy yarn for something that I don't actually really want to work on? I think that's where I'm struggling at the moment. It's like, if there's stuff that I know I want to do, why not do that? And then also the weight going over to Australia, we have like 20 kilos more than luggage coming back from Australia. And so I'm also like, I don't want to take all this stuff that I'm not going to use and then bring back and take up weight on the way back. But then there are other things like this where it's like, we'll take that over and that's staying because that's a present for someone in Australia. So yeah, working through all of those kinds of logistical things in my mind. But basically where I've landed is that there's lots of crafting that I'm going to be doing for Christmas presents. I've just bought a few more things, so I'll show them next episode that I have put aside for Christmas. So I've got that to work on. Obviously I'll take some sock yarns because a lot of the sock yarn that I showed last episode is for people to make socks for people in Australia. So I'll take that and I can leave them when I come back as well. I've been really getting into spinning. I haven't done spinning. That's not true. I've done spinning since the last episode. I didn't bring it to show you and it's not finished yarn yet. So I'll show you when it's finished yarn. But I really want to spin in Australia and I've decided not to take my wheel. But there is a wheel that I can borrow in Australia. But I also don't have a huge amount of fibre. And a lot of the fibre I have, I bought in Australia. And had someone bring over to me here. And so I really struggle with the concept of buying something in Australia, bringing it to Poland, taking it back to Australia to bring back to Poland. It's just doing my head in. So I think for fibre, I will buy things in Australia for fibre and borrow a wheel and all those things. But then there are other things that I like to do, like English paper piecing and cross stitch and embroidery. And so for those things, I'm going to take with me, but I'm just going to make a conscious decision that what I have is what I can take. I'm not going to try and buy a whole lot of stuff in Australia to fill those things. If I finish what I have, that's fine. I can wait until I get back to Poland to do more. So for like English paper piecing, I'll take this tin, which has plenty of plenty of fabric to make hexagons. I'll take the quilt that I'm working on so that I can keep adding to that, and I will take a couple of packages of the papers. Like I think I got them in 300 pack bags or envelopes, and so I'll take a few of them so that I have plenty that I can keep going and building that quilt. And then I have, not physically with me right this second, but in my craft room, I have drawers of 2.5-inch squares and 2.5-inch strips and 5-inch squares that I can cut down to 2.5-inch squares. And so I'll look through them and probably just cut a few extra 2.5-inch squares and take them with me so that I have the variety of colour that I need to continue to work on this quilt. But I'll try in doing that to not buy a huge amount in Australia. If I want to buy another couple of those 2.5-inch charm packs, candy packs, lolly packs, I don't know what they're called. Yeah, I can do that, but I don't want to be buying hundreds of dollars of fabric to make a quilt that is meant to be a scrappy quilt. That doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, I've got a few of these packs, so I'm going to take probably just one, maybe two, but probably just one of these, and that has like a pre-printed fabric inside and all of the things you need, including instructions on the back. This one I got off, I believe I got it off Amazon in Poland. Maybe I got it off Temu. You can get them on Amazon, Temu, and eBay Australia, at least I know. But yeah, just little embroidery kits. And that's what this one here and this one here are. Same kind of deal. So I'll take this and yeah, just this kind of thing where everything's there and included is brilliant. And I have some cross stitches that I've printed off the pattern for, I've pulled the threads for. I just need to figure out how big to cut my cross stitch cloth. And I'll probably do that and take them as well. I just love all the crafts, guys. I just love them. And part of it, I mean, I'm taking a lot. Let's address the elephant in the room here. I'm taking a lot, but quite a large part of the reason for going to Australia, it's to catch up with family, it's to visit the churches that we've visited, but it's also to have a rest. And at the moment, there's just a lot of life that we're doing, but me and my husband, we're doing a lot of it alone. Like looking after the kids. We don't have family nearby. We have friends and they're really great and I love them. But it's not quite the same as having family that you can be like, hey, can you just take our kids for the next 5 hours and we'll see you later? But we're going to a place where we will have that and we need rest. And so I'm like, if I'm going to rest, and one of the big purposes of going there is to rest and to recover from the trauma of, things like the surgery that I just had, then I need the things that will allow me to do that. And yeah, so I'm really excited to kind of be making headway with this and packing and figuring out all the things that I want to do. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've loved about the last week, because it's really only been that long, is having these things in my knitting corner has meant that I don't know, do you guys ever feel guilt about neglecting things? Like, I've really enjoyed having less projects on the needles, less things on the go that are like at the front of my mind, so I can kind of just work on and see progress on something. But it means that when I have all of these things in my knitting journal that I'm like, I really want to work on these, if I then go and swap to quilting, I feel like I'm neglecting the other things. Or if I buy yarn and I start making something with that yarn and then that sits there for a week, I know that easily becomes 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'm like, I feel bad because I've just spent money on this thing and I'm not doing anything with it. And having the quilting or the sewing near my other crafts has meant that I'm like, hey, it's kind of in my mind, and if I feel like doing it, it's kind of like giving myself permission to do that. And I don't know if anyone else does that. Just me? Cool. But yeah, I've really enjoyed just having that permission, if you will, to work on the thing that I want to work on. And that's partly, again, why that grey and black shawl, I'm like, I'm still working on it, and 30 minutes a day is fine. But every time I'm like, I feel like I should be working on that more. I'm like, should I? Like, is that actually a thing? Or I could work on my pretty fun bright hexies. Yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm at the moment. It's been, yeah, very, very busy. This afternoon we're going out to the shops and doing things like opening a bank account so we can continue to pay bills while we're in another country, because at the moment we do that by going to the post office, and we won't be able to do that in another country. Yeah, there's just a lot of little bits and pieces to get a family of 4 across an ocean, or 2 or 3. Yeah. So I've been taking solace in crafting. Is that too strong? I've been enjoying my crafting. Alright. There was something else I was going to say and I cannot remember. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed having this time to chat with you. Please, if you haven't already, let me know what you've been working on while we've been catching up. I look forward to talking to you again and catching up for another knit night soon. Okay, bye.